A quiet Tuesday morning at Cedar Hills Hospital in Miami turns into chaos when James Morrison, a real estate billionaire, wraps his hands around his wife's throat right there in the waiting room. Her gasps echo through the sterile corridor, her fingers clawing desperately at his grip, and before security can react, a trauma surgeon sprints across the lobby, rips him away, and pins him to the ground. The crowd freezes. The security footage captures everything. And in that single moment, everything changes forever. What follows isn't just a story about violence. It's about courage, justice, and a woman who refused to disappear. Stay with me, because when this video goes viral, the entire world chooses sides. Drop a comment telling us where you're watching from. The morning light filtered through the tall windows of Cedar Hills Hospital, casting long shadows across the polished marble floor. Everything was calm, too calm. Sarah Morrison sat in the cushioned waiting area, her hands trembling slightly as she clutched her purse. She wore a cream-colored blouse and dark jeans, her hair pulled back neatly, trying to look composed, trying to look normal. But nothing about her life was normal anymore. Her husband, James Morrison, stood beside her, his posture rigid, his expensive watch catching the fluorescent light. To anyone passing by, they looked like any other wealthy couple waiting for a routine appointment. But Sarah knew better. She could feel the tension radiating off him like heat from pavement. The nurse had just called them back for Sarah's consultation with the marriage counselor, a last attempt to save what was already broken. James had agreed to come only after Sarah threatened to leave. But the moment they sat down in that waiting room, his mask began to crack. "This is a waste of my time," he muttered, loud enough for her to hear, but low enough that others might miss it. "You're making me look weak." Sarah's voice came out barely above a whisper. "James, please. We agreed to try." His jaw clenched. "You agreed. I'm here because you forced my hand." Again, she looked down at her hands, focusing on the wedding ring that suddenly felt too tight. "I just want us to be happy again." "Happy?" His voice rose slightly, drawing a glance from the receptionist. "You think dragging me to therapy makes you a victim? You think you can embarrass me in front of strangers?" "I'm not trying to embarrass you. You already did." His eyes darkened. "The moment you told that marriage counselor, I raised my voice at you. You made me sound like a monster." Sarah's breath caught. "James, you did more than raise your voice. You pushed me against the wall. You broke my—" His hand shot out, gripping her wrist so tightly she gasped. "Don't. You dare." The waiting room seemed to shrink. An elderly man reading a magazine looked up, concern flickering across his face. The receptionist leaned forward slightly, her hand hovering near the phone. "James, you're hurting me," Sarah whispered, tears welling in her eyes. "You think this is pain." His voice was a hiss now, venomous and cold. "You don't know what pain is. But you're about to learn." He stood abruptly, yanking her up with him. Sarah stumbled, her purse falling to the floor, its contents scattering across the tile. Lipstick, keys, a crumpled tissue, all evidence of a life barely held together. "We're leaving," he announced to no one in particular. "No," Sarah said, and the word surprised even her. It came out stronger than she expected. "No, James. I'm not leaving. I'm staying for the appointment." His face twisted. For a moment, something flickered in his eyes. Not love, not regret, but pure rage. "What did you just say to me?" "I said no." The slap came so fast that Sarah didn't have time to protect herself. The crack echoed through the waiting room like a gunshot. Her head snapped to the side, pain blooming across her cheek. She stumbled backward, her vision blurring with tears, and then James was on her. His hands found her throat, fingers digging into her windpipe with terrifying precision. Sarah's eyes went wide, her mouth opening in a silent scream as the air was cut off. She clawed at his hands, her nails drawing blood, but his grip only tightened. "You don't tell me no," he growled. "You don't ever tell me no." The world started to blur at the edges. Sarah's lungs burned, her vision darkening. She could hear screaming, distant, muffled, like it was happening underwater. The receptionist was yelling. The elderly man had dropped his magazine. Someone was running. And then, suddenly, the pressure released. Dr. Marcus Chun had been walking through the lobby when he heard the commotion. A trauma surgeon with 15 years of experience. He'd seen violence before, but never like this. Never in his hospital. Never in broad daylight that he didn't think. He just moved. His hands grabbed James's shoulders, and ripped him away from Sarah with a force that sent the man stumbling backward. James's expensive shoes slipped on the polished floor, and he crashed against a row of chairs. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" Dr. Chin's voice thundered through the lobby. James scrambled to his feet, his face flushed with rage and disbelief. "Do you know who I am? Do you have any idea? I don't care if you're the president." Dr. Chin cut him off, positioning himself between James and Sarah. "You just assaulted your wife in front of 20 witnesses. Security is already on the way." Sarah collapsed to her knees, gasping for air, her hands clutching her throat. Red marks were already forming where James's fingers had been. A nurse rushed to her side, wrapping a blanket around her shoulders. James pointed a shaking finger at the doctor. "You just made the biggest mistake of your life. I'll have your medical license. I'll have this entire hospital shut down. You'll be arrested," Dr. Chin finished calmly. "And I'll be the one who testifies against you." The security guards arrived then, two large men in Navy uniforms. They took one look at Sarah's neck, at James's bloodied knuckles, and made their decision. Within seconds, James Morrison was in handcuffs, still screaming threats as they dragged him toward the exit. "This isn't over," he shouted. Sarah, don't you dare say a word. You hear me? Not a single word." But Sarah wasn't listening anymore. She was staring at her hands, at the blood under her fingernails, his blood, and realizing that for the first time in 8 years, she had fought back. Dr. Chin knelt beside her. "You're safe now. Can you breathe okay?" She nodded weakly, her voice raspy. "He was going to kill me." "I know," the doctor said softly. "But he didn't. You're still here." The footage went viral within hours. Someone in the waiting room had filmed the entire attack on their phone. By evening, it had been shared millions of times. The headline screamed, "Billionaire caught on camera choking wife. Doctor becomes hero." The public reaction was immediate and furious. Women across the country shared their own stories of abuse. Hashtags trended. Protests formed outside James Morrison's corporate headquarters. His business partners distanced themselves. His endorsements vanished overnight. 3 days later, Sarah sat in a quiet room at the district attorney's office. Detective Lisa Warren sat across from her, patient and kind. "Are you ready to press charges?" the detective asked. Sarah looked down at her hands. The bruises on her throat had deepened into dark purple shadows. She thought about all the times she'd stayed silent, all the times she'd made excuses, all the times she'd believed his apologies. "Yes," she said, "I'm ready." The trial lasted 6 weeks. The video was played in court. Dr. Chin testified. Witnesses came forward, employees who'd seen James's temper, friends who'd suspected the truth but said nothing. When the verdict came, Sarah was sitting in the front row, her sister holding her hand. Guilty on all counts. The judge sentenced James Morrison to 12 years in prison. No bail, no appeals pending. As they led him away in handcuffs, he looked back at Sarah one last time. But this time, she didn't look away. She stared right back, and she smiled. 1 year later, Sarah stood on the steps of a new domestic violence shelter in downtown Miami. The building was named the Sarah Morrison Recovery Center. She'd used her divorce settlement to fund as she cut the ribbon, surrounded by survivors and advocates. She spoke into the microphone with a steady voice. "For years, I thought silence would keep me safe. But silence only protects the person hurting you. Today, I'm using my voice. And I'm here to tell every person trapped in darkness, you are not alone. Your life is worth fighting for. And when you're ready to fight, we'll be here." The crowd erupted in applause, and somewhere across the country, a woman watching on her phone made the decision to call the police on her abuser for the first time. If you or someone you know is experiencing domestic violence, please reach out. You deserve safety. You deserve peace. You deserve life. Share this story if it moved you, because sometimes one share can save one life. And that life might be your own. Comment below if you believe survivors, and let's build a community where silence is no longer the default. Thank you for watching. You matter.